What I'm going to talk about a little is a statement made, a press release issued by Birmingham Council by, I believe, Ian Ward, the leader of the council, Labour leader of the council. And quite honestly, it's a list of absolute outrages. The press release starts: the homophobia or Islamophobia, there's absolutely no place in Birmingham for intolerance and discrimination. And that is absolutely right. Nobody disagrees with that, and nobody wants that. Then he goes on to say that the protesters at Parkfield were intimidating. Our protests have taken place for now, have been taking place for about 2 months. There has not been one incident of intimidation. There have been peaceful protests. There have not been homophobic protests. There has been no incitement of hatred towards the LGBT community whatsoever. So how they've been intimidating, I simply don't understand. But I'll tell you who has been intimidated. And the Labour leader is responsible for that, I believe. For example, Muhammad Idris, right at the beginning of this campaign, he came out in favor of the parents, and immediately he was silenced. He was threatened, I believe, by the Labour whip, that if he does not apologize, he will be kicked out of the Labour Party. Now tell me, where is the tolerance in that? And isn't that intimidation? You know, this community is repeatedly intimidated. And this is why our mosques are silent. They are intimidated. Our councillors are silent. They feel threatened and intimidated and don't wish to be labeled homophobic. That's intimidation as well. And I can tell you that if this building was a council building, this conference would have been cancelled, and we would not have, the LGBT community joining us here, together with the parents. Because this is not about the LGBT community or the parents. And this whole debate and this whole issue has been taken in the wrong direction, and it's not been properly understood. The core issue has not been discussed and has not been addressed. And that is because of certain people's insincerity and dishonesty. And I'll come to those later. The council leader, I believe, he goes on to say that there are only a small number of schools. There are about 70 schools in Birmingham with a majority pupil population from our community. And this affects all of them to a lesser or a greater extent. So it's not a small number of schools. Ian Ward goes on to say that the way the media is portraying Birmingham is not a Birmingham I know. Well, I can tell you, the way the protesters are being portrayed in the media, they're not the protesters that I know. They are not homophobic protesters. They are mums, dads, and children who wish to preserve their morality, and that's what they're fighting for, and that's what they're raising their voices for. He goes on to say, no place in this city for intolerance and discrimination. Yeah, absolutely right. There should be no place in this city for intolerance and discrimination. And our children at Parkfield School have been discriminated, and our family values and morals have not been tolerated for 4 years. This is what No Outsiders is about. It's intolerant of our morality. And it discriminates against our morality. So it discriminates against our children, it discriminates against our community. And the leader of the council is talking about that there's no place for intolerance and discrimination, and it's been happening under his nose for years. And you know, our community repeatedly votes Labour in at every election. And this is how they're represented. By this press statement, that we are the intolerant and we are the ones discriminating. So now the victim has become the oppressor. That might ring bells with someone who knows a bit of history. And he goes on to say, call out discrimination and intolerance. It is important that we call out discrimination and intolerance where it happens. But again, it's been happening for years at Parkfield School, and it's not just Parkfield School. See, this has been happening for years in lots of schools. In fact, 4 years ago, that the community was labeled as radical and extremist. And there are about 2,500 children in 3 schools that were affected by that. Practically their education was devastated. And that was discrimination and intolerance of our values. And it's carried on since. And what we see here now with the No Outsiders, that is exactly, it has been a continuation of that. And in fact, No Outsiders, Bridget Jones refers to 4 years ago that from cultural issues she refers to as that they designed this as a de-radicalization tool. So they considered our children as radicals or as potential radicals that need to be de-radicalized. So there is quite a strong smacking of hypocrisy here. And then he says as well that this campaign has been hijacked by people with a homophobic agenda. I don't know which city Ian Ward lives in. Our community is quite a strong community here in Birmingham, and it votes Labour councillors in repeatedly. And we actually have no voice. No one has spoken out in favour of the parents. And the crux of this issue is one of morality. Fatima, when she first spoke out in the papers, she said that it's not okay for her child to be taught that it's okay to be gay. And that phrase has been misconstrued for the last 2 months, and it's been misunderstood. You see, she was referring to her child at school, at primary school. Me and you, we understand what it means when someone says it's okay to be gay. It's a perfectly legal sexual relationship to have. It's also perfectly okay to be gay is perfectly moral in certain parts of our society. But what's not okay is that a child is taught it's okay to be gay when they come from a moral background where that is not the case. That the moral values of that child's family and community are different. That then becomes indoctrination for children at that age, because they are simply not mature enough to understand what a sexual relationship is. We in our community are very traditional and conservative with our family values. We don't even teach our children about sexual relationships, whether they're heterosexual or homosexual, at that age. Can I come back to you, if you may? And you can certainly. I mean, I'm open to questions when I finish. But yeah, I will come back to you, please. So where the council leader says that the campaign has been hijacked by people with homophobic agenda, I don't know where that comes from. And if he's not actually referring to the parents, perhaps he's referring to elements who may have insignificant elements who may have joined the campaign from other parts of the country, then what he's doing is he's deliberately distracting the issue. The issue for us is our children and our children's morality, and for us to preserve that. And making these comments are simply a distraction. He goes on to mention that there's a peddling of hatred. Well, again, I think this is an element that is that may have joined that is not part of the community here in Birmingham. And again, it's a distraction, because they played an insignificant part in our campaign. This campaign, is largely, in fact, almost 100% of the people attending it are from our community, and the parents at Parkfield School, and the children at Parkfield School. So this is it's insincere, it's dishonest, and he's put this in deliberately, and actually, and that's quite insidious. That is, and he even goes on to say that there are, he mentions extremist elements. So he's put all the catchphrases in there, so the media can perhaps pick up on them. And what this does is, he's deliberately undermined our campaign. And that's oppression. That is suppressing the voice of the parents at Parkfield School. And it's actually oppression. Because we as a community, we very rarely raise our voice. We're underrepresented in the political arena. And what the parents have done here at Parkfield School is because they're underrepresented, in fact, they're not represented at all, actually. They have tried to represent themselves. So this is probably the first time they've tried to engage in the democratic process. And look, they're being called homophobic, and they're being treated with disdain. And that is oppression. And so, you know, this this press statement, I just cannot believe that the leader of the council in ward, a Labour councillor, has done that, and that he's represented a community that is very loyal to the Labour Party in this way. It is really quite, it's shameful. I mean, that's you know, that's it. I think that's the end of Ian Ward's press statement. But look, you know, I have you know, organised this conference. It wasn't really to speak about Ian Ward, but because he released this press statement, I thought I would take the opportunity to mention it. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, what I wanted to talk about next is just how we can, as parents, organise ourselves and how we can raise our voice and protect our rights. But before I do that, I'll take some questions. Yes. Sorry, let me. This sister at the front, because.
Do you may not realise that there are horrible people in society who will have seen, all that they will have seen, they have not been on a weekday outside these schools. All that they will have seen is what's on social media or on the news, anywhere else. And although it might not have been the parents themselves who were saying things that were being said outside these schools, there were people with families who actually didn't have children at school that were shouting repeatedly. Something Moffat was repeated again and again and again on social media, and that's not the parents.
So how was that used to make a slur against the homophobic community? But Mufti. No. Okay. Can I just answer your question? Mufti means a scholar of Islam at a very high. Okay. Well, we apologize if it has caused any offence. See, that wasn't intended in an offensive way whatsoever. I appreciate what you're saying. That has been taken in the wrong way. Now, you know, look, this whole campaign has actually created a debate. Now, what you're saying happened on the social media, really, we didn't understand that. And there was no intention for the person who mentioned that to cause that offence, right? But well, look, we can only apologise to you for that. It really wasn't our intention, and in our community, that's not a slur and it's not offensive. Can I? Anyone else? Sorry, there was a brother here I saw earlier as well, and then there was the gentleman at the back there, and then I'll come to you. Okay, so, let me start with you.
I don't want to keep talking this issue, but it's already related to this lady's question to answer. Because I didn't get the meaning of mufti, you know, because that's what we shouted and said.
Yes.
But I don't know that meaning of that. I don't think you said it clearly.
Yeah, the mufti. Sorry.
It's an Arabic word, isn't it?
Yeah, mufti means a learned Islamic scholar. Yeah. I think it rhymed with Moffat. That's why he said. And what Andrew Moffat was, what the brother who was speaking was referring to was when Andrew Moffat says that it's okay to be Muslim and gay, and what he was, what the gentleman was trying to say was that, look, you're not an Islamic scholar, you can't make that judgment. Yeah, that's what he was referring to. But you know what we believe at Parkfield is that Andrew Moffat hasn't respected the children's moral background on this, and he has forced and he has forced his morality on the children. I mean, the No Outsiders program has been designed by Andrew Moffat. However, Bridget Jones made a comment some years ago, and in fact was very supportive of Andrew Moffat, and she referred to cultural issues, is what she referred to at the time, and the sort of need to de-radicalize children in primary schools, and you know, Andrew Moffat himself, you know, says this, and in fact he's doing a PhD about de-radicalizing children in schools, and his, I mean, his whole program, No Outsiders, he claims that it's teaching the Equality Act, but it's largely proselytizing homosexuality to children at school. And I mean, there's a leaflet that the LGBT community have been handing out outside, and it says here that it's a series of 35 books, 4 of which include LGBTQ characters. In fact, it's not 4. You know, we've had people look at all of the 35 books. It's about 8 books, and practically all the other books can be used when they're delivered, they can be used to teach LGBT values. So it is heavily, in fact, the teacher who's analyzed this for us, she's estimated as 33%, a third of the material in these books is teaching LGBTQ values. So you know, it is very biased towards that, and in fact, in these books, there is no religion or race mentioned. Every parent in Britain, the children are absolutely dear to them, and you know, every parent in the whole world wants to have a say in their children's life. That they should be they're the guardian of that child, and they determine what that child is taught at school, what its morals are. They have the first right to that, not the state. And there are specific laws that state that, and that guarantee that and protect that. There's a piece of legislation going back to the Second World War, the Education Act 1944, and it's very explicit. It says pupils are to be educated in accordance with the wishes of their parents. And these are the words that the legislation uses. The wishes of their parents. That's how the state should educate the children of those parents. The Human Rights Act 1998, it reconfirms that. It says the state must respect the rights of parents' religious and philosophical convictions in respect of education and teaching. This act is also connected with the European Convention on Human Rights. So those two acts are very explicit in terms of where the parent stands and the child's education stands. You know, they have a direct authority over it. There's a parent authority over the child's education, and the school has to respect that. You know, you can't have a school teaching a child something without the consent of the parents. Nowhere in Britain does that happen. You know, every child being taught in British schools is being taught with the consent of their parents, except perhaps in Parkfield School. So, and this is why, you know, parents should be outraged and should be out on the streets and protesting and raising their voice. But it doesn't happen in other parts of Britain because they are better represented politically. They have a political voice. You know, in other parts of Britain, if this happened to a school, the matter would have been resolved. If there was a protest, the following day, the matter would have been resolved. But here, we have been protesting for almost 2 months, and still we find the school is not listening to the parents. While I am on some legislation, let me just also mention the Equality Act 2010. And this is what Mr. Moffat uses for the no outsiders. In it, he says, it says, in the schools section of the Equality Act, nothing in this chapter, the schools chapter, applies to the content of the curriculum. And it further says that no school or teacher is under any obligation to support, promote, or endorse the marriage of same-sex couples, so same-sex relationships. And you know, just a little bit of background on the Equality Act. The Equality Act is an act protecting people from discrimination, particularly in the employment arena and in service provision. So, for example, you know, if you're gay, you know, you should have equal opportunity in terms of employment, or if you're, you know, Asian. And similarly, you know, if you're disabled, you should also have equal opportunity, and there should be a service provision for your difficulty. So it's primarily at that, but it has a section called equality duty, which can require the promotion of equality, and that's what Mr. Moffat plays on. But nowhere, but you know, there's a distinction. There's a very clear distinction regarding the Equality Act. The Equality Act is about behavior, how people interact with each other and how they behave towards each other. It is not about morals or beliefs. It's not about changing moral values or moral beliefs. And this is what Mr. Moffat explicitly does. Because what he wants is, he says he wants acceptance. And what he means by acceptance is that the children accept it's okay to be gay from a moral perspective.